Two. Just two. On a planet with 8 billion people, millions of animals, and lifespans stretching back millions of years. Only two are left. Not two out of thousands, not two out of hundreds. Two out of nothing. And both of them are female. If they die, there's no coming back, no do-overs, no second chances. But before you get to these two, there were 2,000. 2,000. That was their count back in the 60s. The Northern White Rhino, massive, ancient, walking this earth before humans even knew how to write. It was here, it was alive. There were 2,000 of them. Then came the wars, then came the poaching, then came the greed. Every 10 years, cut in half. Every 10 years, cut in half again, until by 2006. Only 4 were left in the wild, and by 2008, even those 4 were gone. Not a single sighting, no tracks, no sounds, no signs, like they never existed. But there were 6. 6 in captivity, in the Czech Republic. 6 animals carrying the survival of an entire species on their backs. In 2009, a historic decision. 4 of them were flown to Kenya, not running away, chasing hope. Scientists said a natural environment might trigger their breeding instincts. They waited. They kept waiting. Nothing. Then in 2014, one of the males died, and in 2018, the last one followed. Sudan, the last northern white male on the face of the earth, closed his eyes for good. In that moment, natural reproduction ended. Forever. But the scientists didn't give up, because in a lab in San Diego, there's something called the frozen zoo. A frozen zoo. No living animals, just cells. Cells from 12 northern white rhinos, preserved in liquid nitrogen at negative 196 degrees Celsius. 12 individuals, preserved genetically, forever. And the question now, can you bring back a species from a single cell? Has science actually gotten there? The answer is going to blow your mind. In 2019, something happened that had never happened in the history of science. Scientists from Berlin and San Diego, working together, took skin cells from Najin and Fatu, the last 2 females, turned them into eggs, took sperm from males that had been frozen in storage, and completed fertilization. Outside the womb, outside nature, outside every known biological law, and they created living embryos, Northern White Rhino embryos, for the first time in decades. Then in 2023, proof of concept arrived. They transferred a Southern White Rhino embryo into a Southern White Rhino surrogate at Olpejeta. A real pregnancy was confirmed. A male embryo, 6.4 centimeters long, heart beating. But before anyone could celebrate, the surrogate died from a bacterial infection, and the embryo didn't make it. The failure didn't stop anyone, because the proof was right there. The womb accepted it, the embryo grew, the process works. And as of April 2026, 39 Northern White Rhino embryos are sitting in that lab. 39 chances. 6 embryo transfers have been attempted so far. No successful pregnancy yet. But the scientists keep saying one thing. Human IVF took more than 100 attempts before it worked the first time. We're on attempt number 6. The difference wasn't luck. It wasn't genetics. It wasn't strength. The difference was one decision. In 1895, the South African government made a call. 1 reserve, 1 set of guards, 1 law, no hunting, no trespassing, no exceptions. And they left them alone. 50 individuals breeding in safety. 10 years, 100, 20 years, 500, and now 20,000. From 50 to 20,000. No technology, no labs, no frozen embryos, just one decision. But here's the biggest irony of all. The same human who saved the Southern Rhino is the one who wiped out the Northern. The same hand that built the reserve is the one that held the gun. But this story isn't just about rhinos, because at the same time, thousands of miles away, there was another story. A bird, a wingspan of nearly 10 feet, the largest land bird in North America, the California Condor. In 1982, only 22 birds left on the entire planet. 22. And the scientists were arguing. Some said, let them die with dignity. Others said, take every single one into captivity. It was an unbearable decision. If they got it wrong, The species was gone forever. If they got it right, maybe life could be brought back. What did they choose? They chose the impossible. In 1987, they decided to capture the last free bird in the sky, the last wild condor, named AC-9. One bird, free, soaring over the mountains of Santa Barbara, and in a single day, the sky went silent. They caught him, and for the first time in history, the California Condor went extinct in the wild. Officially, completely, finally, not a single bird in the sky, but in a cage in San Diego. 27 condors stared up at the ceiling. 27 animals, carrying the future of an entire species. And the scientists faced a problem nobody had dealt with before. Condors don't breed easily. One egg every 2 years. 6 years before they even mature. By the math alone, this species wouldn't be saved in their lifetimes. But then one of them discovered something that changed everything. Steal the egg. And the mother lays another one. Simple idea, massive result. Scientists started stealing eggs the moment they were laid, incubating them in labs, and letting the mother lay a second egg, sometimes a third. 3 times the natural breeding rate in a single year. But the next problem was even stranger. The chicks, if they saw a human face, they thought it was their mother, and an animal that thinks a human is its mother won't know how to survive in the wild, won't know how to fly with its own kind, won't know who it is. The solution? Glove puppets shaped like condor heads, scientists hiding their faces, feeding the chicks with an artificial hand that looked like a beak, day by day, hour by hour, so that when the bird takes to the sky, it knows it's a bird. And in 1992, they opened the cage. The first condor to step out, stood on the edge of the enclosure, looked up at the sky, and didn't move. Seconds, a minute, then it spread its wings, 10 feet of air and feathers and history, and it flew, for the first time in 5 years. A condor in the American sky. The scientists cried, but the celebration didn't last, because in the years that followed, the birds started dying, one after another. Not from hunting, not from disease. Lead, not lead from hunters targeting them, but lead fragments left inside the carcasses they were eating. Condors eat carrion, and the carrion was contaminated with hunters' lead ammunition, and lead dissolves into the bloodstream and stops the heart. The species that was barely saved was being killed in silence. 50%. Half the condors that died after being released died from lead poisoning. Half of all the effort, half of all the tears, half of all the years, gone because of something nobody thought about. But then, something unexpected happened. The hunters themselves stepped up, in Arizona, voluntarily. Hunters decided to switch to copper ammunition instead of lead. No law, no pressure, just because they didn't want to be the reason a bird went extinct. And in 2008, California passed a law banning lead ammunition in condor territory. The numbers started climbing, slowly, steadily, stubbornly, from 27 to 100 to 200 to 400 to today. 607 condors on the face of the earth, 341 of them flying free in the sky. But hold on, because in 2021, scientists discovered something about the condor that nobody saw coming, something that breaks every rule in biology. A female condor had never mated with any male, completely isolated, and yet she laid an egg, a live egg, a real egg, genetically tested. No father, no sperm, no mating, nothing. The female reproduced on her own. Scientists called this parthenogenesis, virgin birth, known in reptiles, known in some fish, but in a large bird, incredibly rare, and in a species on the edge of extinction. It means one thing: nature doesn't give up, even when everyone else does. Life finds a way. But that's not even the wildest part. The wildest part is that this discovery happened by accident. If the program hadn't been genetically tracking every single bird, we never would have known. And if we didn't know, we'd have lost a lesson that might save other species. But the condor and the rhino aren't alone. Because at the same time scientists were saving these two species, there was an even wilder story unfolding. A story about an animal that was officially declared extinct. Not endangered, not rare. Extinct, officially, finally, documented. Filed away. Done. Then in 1981, a ranch dog in Wyoming came home carrying the carcass of a strange animal. The rancher didn't recognize it. He called a scientist. The scientist came, looked, and went silent. Then said one thing: "This is impossible." It was the black-footed ferret. The animal officially declared extinct in 1979. It was alive, not just one individual, an entire colony. 24 animals living on a Wyoming ranch, while the entire world thought they were gone. Scientists rushed in, cameras showed up, hope came back. But before the rescue program could even start, disease hit. Sylvatic plague swept through the colony. Within weeks, most of them were dead. The survivors were rushed into captivity. 18 individuals left. 18 animals, carrying the future of an entire species on their backs. And the hardest part, black-footed ferrets can't survive without one specific prey. Prairie dogs, no ferrets. And humans had been killing prairie dogs by the millions because they considered them pests. 18 animals, an endangered prey species, a deadly disease, and scientists working without sleep. The captive breeding program began. Every birth, a celebration. Every death, a disaster. Year after year. Numbers crept up slowly. And in 1991, the first ferret was released into the wild, but the disease was waiting. Every time a group was released, the plague came back and wiped out most of them. A cycle with no end. Release, plague, release, plague, until scientists came up with something nobody had ever tried. A vaccine, but not for the ferret, for the prey. A plague vaccine. Spread inside food scattered across prairie dog colonies. The prairie dogs eat it. They become immune. The ferret eats the immune prairie dogs. And the disease stops spreading. A food chain. Turned into a lifeline. But even that wasn't enough. Because there was a deeper problem. Only 18 animals, means very limited genetics. Inbreeding, weakened immune systems, deformities, lower reproduction. The species was surviving in numbers, but deteriorating genetically. And in 2020, the solution came from somewhere nobody could believe. From a lab in San Diego. The same lab that stores the rhino cells. They took preserved cells from 1988. From a ferret named Willa, dead for 30 years, and cloned her. Elizabeth Ann was born. The first cloned black-footed ferret in history. Alive. Healthy. Carrying completely different genetics. Genetics that didn't exist in a single living individual on Earth. The past was brought back to life. But the question nobody's answered yet. Is cloning salvation? Or just a delay? Scientists are split. One side says cloning is a miracle. The other says cloning is an illusion. Because Elizabeth Ann was cloned from an animal that lived in a completely different environment. Her genes are old. Her instincts are programmed for a world that no longer exists. But the first side fires back. One different gene could protect the entire species from a future outbreak. And the truth is, they're both right. Because what saves a species from extinction isn't one tool. It's every tool, all at once. Cloning, natural breeding, reserves, laws, and people. And that's exactly what someone else figured out. Somewhere completely different. In 1962, on a small island in the Pacific, there was a bird, green, flightless, slept during the day. The kakapo, the strangest parrot in the world, weighing up to 9 pounds. The heaviest parrot on Earth, doesn't fly, doesn't run, doesn't fear anything. It evolved over millions of years in New Zealand. With no predators, no enemies, no fear. Then humans showed up and brought cats with them, and rats and stoats, animals the kakapo had never seen in its life, and had no idea how to run from. By the 90s, 50 individuals left. 50 heavy, flightless green parrots, facing a world they never evolved to handle. And the strangest part, the kakapo doesn't breed every year. It only breeds when a specific tree produces fruit. Once every 3 to 5 years. How do you save a species that breeds on its own schedule? The answer was an island. New Zealand's scientists decided We're not fixing the existing environment. We're building a new one. They moved every single kakapo to isolated islands with no predators. Islands surrounded by ocean, no cats, no rats, no enemies. An environment like New Zealand before humans arrived. Then, they tracked every individual. Every kakapo has a name, a file, a medical history. Every female has a tracking device. When breeding season approaches, scientists step in. They pick the most genetically compatible male. They prevent inbreeding. They protect the eggs. They treat the chicks. They document everything. And very slowly, the numbers started rising. From 50 to 100 to 150 to today, 247 kakapo. A small number, but it means something huge. Because every single one of those 247 is known by name. Think about that, 247 animals. Every one of them with a name. Sirocco, Sinbad, Hauturu. Real names, real personalities. Scientists know each one personally. They know their temperament, their health, their history. This isn't just species preservation. This is a relationship between humans and animals, built on the edge of extinction. And that relationship exposed a painful truth. In every story we've told, the condor, the kakapo, the rhino, the ferret, in every single story, there was one reason for the collapse. Just one. Us. Hunting, pollution, introduced predators, wars, greed. Every species pushed to the edge. Got there because of a human decision. And every species that was saved by a different human decision. And the question that can't be ignored: why do we always wait until the edge? Because the edge changes everything. When a species drops below 100 individuals, something shifts in the human mind. Something that never happened when there were thousands. The fear of losing something hits harder than the joy of having it. That's what psychology tells us, and that's what history proves. The Arabian oryx, declared extinct in the wild in 1972. The last wild individual was shot in Oman. But at the same time, a few were sitting in American zoos, small in number, forgotten, far from their desert home. Then came a decision. Operation Oryx. They gathered every individual in captivity, started a breeding program, and in 1982, the first Arabian oryx was released into the wild in Oman. It went back to its desert, back to its sand, back home after 10 years of being gone. And today, more than 1,000 Arabian oryx roam the Arabian Peninsula, and it holds a record nobody else does. The first animal in history to move from extinct in the wild back to vulnerable on the IUCN Red List. The first ever. But there's one story nobody saw coming. A story that doesn't start with poaching, doesn't start with pollution, doesn't start with war. It starts with a pesticide. DDT, a chemical humans invented in 1939. To kill insects. Nobody knew. It would kill something else entirely. The bald eagle, symbol of America, the national emblem. In 1963, only 417 nesting pairs left in the entire United States. 417 pairs in a country the size of a continent. Why? DDT dissolves into water. Fish absorb it. Eagles eat the fish. DDT builds up in their bodies and makes their eggshells thin as paper. The egg cracks under the mother. Before it ever hatches, an entire generation, never born. 10 years. 10 years of scientists screaming. DDT is killing birds. DDT is destroying eggs. DDT is dangerous. And the government looked away. And the companies denied it. And the eagle kept disappearing. Then one woman stepped up. Rachel Carson, a writer, a scientist, dying of cancer. She wrote a book. Silent Spring, 1962. She described a world with no birds, a spring with no sounds, forests with no life. The book set the world on fire. Companies came after her. They called her crazy. They called her dramatic. But people read it, and people believed it. And in 1972, DDT was banned in America, and in that same year, the first healthy eagle egg hatched in years. One woman, Welks, with one book, saved an entire species. But banning DDT alone wasn't enough. Another law came in 1973. The Endangered Species Act, the first law of its kind in the world. It said clearly, you do not have the right to kill this animal. You do not have the right to destroy its home. You don't even have the right to disturb it. But nature now had legal rights, and the numbers started climbing. From 417 pairs in 1963 to 71,400 pairs today. 316,700 bald eagles soaring over America. And in 2007, the bald eagle was officially removed from the endangered species list. Done. Final. But right here comes the heaviest question in this entire documentary. How many other species didn't get saved since 1970? 69% of vertebrate populations on Earth have disappeared. Not full extinction, but a silent collapse. 69% in just 50 years. Frogs are vanishing, ocean fish are declining. Insects, the ones that pollinate every food we eat, are dropping at 2.5% every single year. Scientists call this the silent extinction. An animal becomes rare, then rarer, then disappears. Before the world even knew it was there, most species that went extinct did so without us ever knowing they existed. No name, no photo, no story, and the real extinction numbers are far bigger than anything we know. But in the middle of all this, there's one number that stops the mind cold. Since 1973, 66 species have been removed from the endangered list in America alone. 66 species that were supposed to disappear and didn't, because a person decided to step in, because a scientist refused to quit, because a law passed at exactly the right moment, because a woman wrote a book while she was dying, because a hunter in Arizona switched his ammunition, because a rancher in Wyoming called a scientist instead of tossing the carcass. Every rescue story started with one individual decision, one person, one moment, one choice. And that is the most terrifying thing in this entire documentary, because it means every species that went extinct could have been saved if just one person had decided to act. 607 condors in the sky, 20,000 southern white rhinos across Africa, 316,700 bald eagles over America, 1,000 Arabian oryx in the deserts of the Arabian Peninsula, 1,800 giant pandas in the mountains of China, 247 kakapo on isolated islands in New Zealand, 400 black-footed ferrets across the North American prairies, 84,000 humpback whales in the world's oceans. Numbers, just numbers. But behind every number, years of sleepless nights. Behind every number, a scientist who lost hope and found it again. Behind every number, an animal that had no idea it was on the edge of disappearing. But a human knew and decided to do something. These numbers aren't just scientific achievements. They're proof of something deeper, that humans, when they actually want to, can fix what they broke. But the question is, do they always want to? Najin and Fatu are still in Kenya, under armed guard, around the clock, eating, walking, living. They don't know they're the last two. They don't know that scientists in Berlin and San Diego are working day and night to save their species. They don't know that 39 embryos are sitting in a lab, waiting for a womb to carry them. They don't know anything. They're just living. And that is the most beautiful and most heartbreaking thing at the same time. Because that innocence is exactly what makes humans responsible when the animal doesn't know it's threatened. The human is the only one who does. The human is the only one who chooses. And the question that'll stay with you, long after this documentary is over, isn't about the condor, isn't about the rhino. The question is, what is disappearing right now, while we're busy looking the other way? In 1987, the American sky went silent. The last free condor entered a cage, and the world didn't notice. Today, 341 condors fly free, and the world still isn't paying attention. That is the real problem. Not the hunting, not the pollution, not the wars. The real problem is that we don't pay attention until only 2 are left. Just 2, like Najin and Fatu. And when only 2 are left, we mobilize, we cry, we spend millions. But the question is, why 2? Why don't we move when there are still 1,000? Why do we wait until the very edge? To remember that life is precious. The Northern White Rhino started at 2,000. 2,000. Sounds like a lot, until it becomes 2. And 2 feels like enough, until there's no one left. Nature doesn't give second warnings, and the sky doesn't wait.